but I want to challenge us as Black men here in Wisconsin to make the right choices.
We are very committed to developing a forum for identifying and addressing health issues of Black men in our community.
Over the course of this hour, I'm really excited to talk about the ways that we can do more to reduce our risks as African Americans.
My name is Joshua Wright. I am a community project coordinator with the University of Wisconsin's Carbone Cancer Center and the Cancer Health Disparities Initiative.
As Black people, I want to talk to us. Be nice to your doctor.
Absolutely.
Now, it sounds crazy, but we will go in there and be like, look, my daughter's sick, and they're not trying to hear all that.
Caffeine accelerates your digestion. So with you guys on the road, I'm sure you're pumping a lot of caffeine. Maybe,
Not me, Dannon.
But your colon is really long. It goes from the right side of your body to the left side and all the way down.
You know what I thought you were going to say? You know what I thought you were going to say?
What?
I thought you were going to say, he said, Dannon, thank God, because you are a horrible animator.
We'll see you guys again in 2023. Take care. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining the 7th annual We're Off to a Good Start Men's Health Empowerment event. My name is Aaron Perry. I am the founding president and CEO of the Rebalance Life Wellness Association. I am also the owner of the Perry Family Free Clinic, which the clinic provides access to care for uninsured and underinsured Black men. As of today, Black men live on average 7 years less than white men. Today, we'll talk a little bit about these leading factors contributing to the failing health and death of Black men, such as diabetes, hypertension, cancer, and of course, the challenges with mental health. We're also excited. We have a really great lineup for you today, but we're mostly excited to have Dr. Eva Vivian as our own physician and health expert. So up next, we got Dr. Alvin Thomas. He's going to talk a little bit about mental health. And so thank you again all for joining us, and let's get it going.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I am Alvin Thomas, an assistant professor in the School of Human Ecology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, a clinical psychologist training. We have waited 2 long years, hoping that the COVID-19 pandemic would disappear as suddenly as it appeared. And we had hoped that we would finally be able to breathe a sigh of relief and return to normal, whatever that meant. The murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and other examples of the desecration of Black bodies made surviving the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic even more challenging. Today, with new variants, with rising and falling infection rates, significant financial troubles, and food prices that are out of range for many, the uncertainty remains. Beyond the deaths, trauma, and grief of the COVID-19 pandemic was the toll that it took on mental health. Anxiety and depression levels rose significantly, especially among Black and Hispanic families. But we held on. We buried our grief and fear as deeply as we did our dead loved ones, because we hoped that this was going to be short-term. But the pressure and the stress that is buried eventually emerges somewhere else, and often not in the best fashion. Ask the volcano about that. So today we are seeing increases in substance use as men and others try to deal with the stress of the increased uncertainty of life. We see more violence among those who live near to us, including domestic violence. We see more of our children lashing out at the world and at themselves. Our communities are hurting, and our Black men, by extension, are hurting under the strain of either supporting their communities or feeling impotent in supporting community and family. I want to tell you that things will get better, but a lie cannot bring life. What I can tell you, though, is that it can be better. Choices. Men have to embrace their fullness, the fullness of their humanity, and that includes the fullness of their strengths and vulnerabilities. The mental health of Black men is critical for the physical health of Black men and their families. We need to love ourselves enough to share our emotional and mental health lives with people whom we trust. We need to recognize the signs that mental health issues are on our horizons before those signs become symptoms and overwhelm us. So we are off to a good start. Today's conversations are a good start. Tap into the many available resources for supporting your physical and mental health, and you will learn of some of those resources today. Tap into your role as a father, as an elder, as a community member, and make the daily choices that make it possible for you to be here with your children and your community for as long as possible. We are off to a good start, but let's commit to doing more. We are off to a good start. Let's look to the future because we are off to a good start. Thank you and welcome.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. You know, we can always count on you, my brother. We do appreciate you. And I want to introduce next Mr. Dannon Green. Dannon is my college roommate or classmate, on the road roommate. Dannon is a young man who, when he graduated, he went off to the Ohio State University. And Dannon went out there. Yeah, I see that in the background. Dannon went out to the Ohio State University, and Dannon is the first African American to get a master's degree in computer animations. And Dannon, I might butcher the story a little bit, but when Dannon decided that he was going to go out to California to make his millions, he was always funny. And he goes out to California, started doing comedy, and never looked back. I think personally he's one of the top comedians in the country, if not the world. That's just my opinion. But Dannon, we do appreciate you being here. Dannon is also the director of The Executioner. We all had a chance. He is a dynamic comedian, writer. Dannon, I'm done telling your story. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. AP, how are you, brother?
Doing good, man. Thank you so much. And you know, Dannon, you just heard Dr. Alvin Thomas give a little update and really kind of focuses on the mental health. But me and Dannon, ladies and gentlemen, we lost one of our really close friends,
Yes.
last year. Marcus Ware. He was a dynamic athlete. He was a dynamic individual. We actually are reconnected again when Dannon had his movie premiere in Madison, and this is Marcus in the picture with us. But we all reconnected, and at that time, Marcus told me that he had cancer, but he beat it. And unfortunately, at some point, his cancer returned, and I didn't know it. I don't think Dannon knew it, and obviously, Marcus struggled. This is one of the reasons that we are here today, because I was upset. I was hurt, of course, of losing my good friend, but also that he didn't reach out to us and let us know that he was struggling again. But then I thought about it, and it's like, wait a minute. He's fighting for his life. I should have reached out to him. And so, one of the things that I want to make sure we do today is reconnect with our friends, check in with our family members, and continue to extend a hand and lift those up that are struggling. So, go ahead, Dan.
First of all, Aaron, and thank you very much for having me. Say what his words were very, very thoughtful and appropriate for the situation, you know, because I think every year we look at something new, but every day we should something being a new start. You know what I mean? Getting our day off to a good start. You know, and so I appreciate what the doctor said. You know, Aaron, it's a pleasure to be back with you. I look forward to it every year because you really have done something that I believe is needed. We've all have had our issues. I had my health issues. You know, I had cancer. You know what I mean? And 10 years ago, 11 years ago, this year coming up, and I'm clean. And you know, when we saw each other, you, Marcus, and myself saw each other in Wisconsin, we never knew what he was going through. You know, he didn't look like he was going through anything. Looked like himself. He, Marcus was an amazing athlete. I mean, he was 2 inches, 3 inches from being out the league. I mean, that's how good of a player he was. He was dynamic. He was only 6'2", 6'2 and a half at the most. So he was a guy that was really a great person too, and a good father. And so when he passed, you know, we were all very, very hurt. The whole Mary Crest family and things like that, and especially you and I, because we all were friends. You know, you, me, and Marcus, we were runners. We ran. You know, we ran around a lot together. So,
Three amigos.
The 3 amigos, trust me. But it's a pleasure to be here. You know, because of what you're doing. People have to see this. You know, even as a comedian, I talk about having health insurance on stage and being in good health because I make jokes about it, but it's so true. And unfortunately, in our community, the African American community, especially with males, we don't talk about stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I made a joke up on stage, and I was talking about when I had caught the COVID. You remember? And I said, you know, we don't even say what we really had. We just say, yo, what's up? Yeah, I got it. What is it?
Right.
Got it. Whatever that may be, you know? And so I believe you, and I tell people this, I believe what you have done in Madison by having the health clinics in the barbershops, which is unprecedented. I believe that it's going to really spread, but it's something that's needed because these men are away from their women. And if their ladies aren't telling them to go to the doctor, they're not going to the doctor. They're not seeing it. But maybe if they go to the barbershop and they see, you know, this clinic right there in the ground where they can just walk right in, they may do it. You know what I mean? So kudos to you, brother, on that, you know?
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. So, Danny, you're going to be bringing in our guests, our talent. Are they here with us yet?
Yes.
Right.
Well, one of the talents is. Oh, wait a minute.
Shuck it now.
Okay. Yeah. So
shuck it now.
let me go ahead and set this up right. Because both of these guys are talent actually. So even though we'll have fun with them, but I don't want to really take away from their careers and what they've done. I'm going to go with Jason now first. First of all, these are very two good friends of mine. Personal friends. Now, I don't know how close Jay and I really are, but I know I like at least DL. You know what I mean? So, Jay, turn your mic up. I don't know if he's there. Real quick. So, Jay Anthony Brown, talented comedian, wrote for Arsenio Hall, wrote for the Steve Show, was on the Steve Harvey Show, was on the Tom Joyner Show, and currently is on the show. Assistant Live produced by Tyler Perry in Atlanta, and he's one of the stars. I met Jay in 92, 93 when I first moved to LA. I won't tell the whole story, but let's just put it this way. he initiated me into the game, which caused me to get my game and step my game up. And then, as you know, Aaron, and
No,
what
tell
people
the story. Tell the story. Tell it. Tell the story. Tell it.
I was, a newcomer town, and I was begging Jay to join his, perform at his comedy night. He's one of the biggest comedy nights in LA, from the country, Maverick Flat, on Saturday night. I kept begging him to get on stage. He would never put me on. So finally one day he says, "Yo, I'm gonna put you on." And I come to the club, and Aaron, I was in Iowa, I was in Ohio, and I had a suit on, I had a tiger short suit on with a Kango hat and sandals. And I'm just happy that him and DL wasn't there that night. It really bad for me, but they talked about me for about 35 minutes, and I wanted to fight. I was going to hit him. And Aaron, I called.
That's
Aaron.
right. You're a softball.
But I couldn't do it. Now, Paul, he knows me. Man, he's been to my fights. Make a long story short, on that part, I never went back to the club for about 6 months. And we wind up being together. That was produced by Steve Harvey, and I was his understudy. And we became friends. This is before I came back to the club. The funny thing, buddy, and came to me one day. He said, "You hope I get sick, don't you?" Because he never got sick all the shows. But then he invited me down to the club. I did better. I actually did a lot better. He gave me a lot of love. And then delivering FedEx packages to his house and used to come and became a nuisance. But that's how Jay and I became good friends, ladies and gentlemen. So that's Jay Anthony Brown. And now I'd like to introduce you to my guy, my frat brother.
We can't again.
Me,
Long as I can't.
Fix your mic so I can hear what. Fix your mic so I don't have to hear what you're trying to say. So, speak up, D. Let me see.
Can you
speak,
test 1 2 test 1 2? Can you
Oh yeah, we can check. We got you.
Test 1 2 test
Oh,
1
you're
2.
going up and down. You're going in and out. Okay. So, real quick, Hughley.
Well, I was.
I can hear you, but you sound a little much.
Okay. Advanced introduction. I don't think we have enough time for that. We will all be dead.
Hey,
we know each other. We love each other. We see each other a lot. Now,
So,
let's get
so, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I had to put up with and still do.
I'm like,
too good.
damn.
Oh no. The problem is DL. Can you hear me?
What we saying, Jay?
Yeah. DL is mad that I got a longer introduction than he. That's and DL is the biggest star. But DL is the biggest star. He's the big star. I'm not gonna go Monique on him. I know my place. I'm gonna open this show and I'm gonna go sit down.
I love it.
But really quick on DL, I want to give his respect. Former host of BET, had his own television show. Currently has his own radio show. Was the original king of comedy. He was on the King of Comedy tour with Bernie and Cedric. And just a guy. The reason that I went for both of these guys, as you know, is because we do talk about health, and both of them have had their issues with health. Some situation, DL was there, some other situations, Jay himself. And I just felt that these would be two guys that could represent not only the entertainment field, but what you're trying to do here. So again, ladies and gentlemen, Jay Anthony Brown and my good friend D.L Hughley, both of these gentlemen.
All right. So thank you, Dan. And some of the mics are going kind of in and out, so folks are just going to have to bear with it. But DL and Jay Anthony, thank you guys so much for joining this important discussion. I know that DL, you've been with us before. Every time you come down to the Milwaukee Improv, we try to catch you. And you know, it's been a pleasure to just have you guys on board with us. But this, of course, is a serious conversation, and I know that Dannon wanted to talk a little bit about some of the health challenges that, you know, some Black men go through. So go ahead, Dannon.
So, in terms of me, and a number of years ago, D.L. about it. He was one of the few people to know about my situation when I had prostate cancer, and he was one of the few people to actually call me. And he had some issues, not issue like this, with inflamed prostate, and his numbers were high. He had spoke about it, and he was obviously cancer free. But just in terms of that time period of what I had, if it wasn't for me as a man keeping up on my own health, without someone telling me, I have, you know, survived the situation. And then when it comes down to as well with J.O. and I was for 4.5 days and dehydrated.
Yeah, Dannon, I'm going to interrupt you for a second because your mic is really going in and out.
Oh, is it? My mic?
Yeah. So I'm going to give DL and then Jay a moment to share. If you guys can share a little bit about what's going on with you guys, and you know, what are some of the latest projects that you're working on. We'll start with DL if that's okay.
Well, I'm obviously I'm on the do my radio show. We're developing with Fox, and we're waiting to see the situation that we've already written 6 to the scripts. I'm in the Daily Show, so I'm having a good time. But the reason I want to jump on the call is, you know, we're in our 50s or beyond, and this is the time when taking care of yourself is even more crucial. Whether we like it or not, we're in the back nine, and if it is the front nine, we have to start. You know, it shouldn't. We're not children. If you want to live longer, these are the things you need to do, and if you don't, you can just be oblivious. It is time for men, and particularly Black men, not only into mental health. It is time for us to step up and start being the stewards of our own thinking. You don't have to talk to. If you want to live a long time, if you want to, and remember and have, fruitful life, then, as I said, the steward of your own health. And it's important that we have conversations like this to make sure that this is a very serious thing, and the quality of life and how long you live is at stake.
Absolutely. How about you, Jay?
Well, I mean, on the piggyback on what DL is saying, you know, like you say, when you get older, you really start to take the seriousness of your health, and you start to think about, well, how long am I going to be here? And one way to make sure that you can stay here with a good life is basically go to the doctor, not only physically, but mentally too. We might find ourselves in a position where we need to talk to somebody, a specialist or a friend or somebody, because like you were saying earlier, the Black man is under a lot of stress. The minute you step out of your house, just outside, you could get the stress in the yard, living across the street from crazy ass people. It's stressful. You know, you might pick the wrong neighborhood that you didn't know anything about who your next door neighbor is, and will cause you a living hell. And if you're of this color, it's like they say in Tombstone, hell is coming, and it does. You never know what turn is going to cause you the stress that you might have to go through. And we're talking mentally and physically. And as Black men, we need to find a place that we can check our bodies and check our mental health in terms of what's going on with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dan, you want to do a mic check?
Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it's I just think it's real important that we do that, because the thing about, especially the lifestyle that we live as comedians, you know, Jay's on the road, DL's on the road, I was just on the road. You're moving, depending on, you know, your access. You may not have the best opportunity to have a good meal or a healthy meal or even a decent meal. It's not that you can't eat, but if you're doing finishing a show at 9:30 at night, 10:30, 11:30 at night, like we do, you know, and the burger place is the only place open, You know what I'm saying? A lot of us have not been eating well. And I can probably say over the last number of years, 2 years, we've lost a number of comedians to bad health, unfortunately. I mean, like Jay said, and DL definitely said, we're on the back nine and we are shorter in terms of our life, but you can live longer if you take care of yourself. So I just think that it's real important. What Jay said is to check. I just think the problem is that a lot of times as men, we just don't like to go to the doctor. And I want to ask DL maybe a question first, when, like the time when he had the situation, I believe, if you don't mind me mentioning that, you talked about the prostate before.
Right.
Was that because you kept up on it, DL, where you were able to be up on it, or was it just random?
It's all because of my physical called prostatitis, and of course, and the whole thing. But it ended up being able to be taken care of. I think, like, I have a really good friend, a frat brother of mine, actually, and he, in terms of his PSA, right? And so, had he been in regular contact with the doctor, his number should be, then he didn't know, because they'll tell black people this is a certain baseline, but all of you for in terms of a level of health are based on white men and color, and they can make those things vary. So what may be normal for him may not be normal for us. But black women, the standards that you're supposed to wait till you're 50 for like that. A lot of insurance companies will tell you that. But for black men, for black women, you should start getting screened early. We start getting screened earlier for prostate cancer. So it's really, being healthy and trying to have a more fruitful and fit, really, like I said, it's really like trying to describe a sound. You ever have to take it to a mechanic and unless it made that sound, you couldn't. That's the connection you need to have with your doctor, and that level of like it can't be that I was being here than we did. It can't be that we're not, like I said earlier, we're not children, told what to do. If these things they have to become important, because as a black man, we live just long enough to pay a white woman Social Security. we die life, and now that white woman gets that's statistically what happens. We die right about the time when Social Security kicks in, and people have a vested interest in this dynamic. So you don't have to worry about whether Social Security is solved a lot longer. Black people work hard. We want to break that paradigm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, something that I'm going to be repeating today.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, before we go to Jay, something DL said was really important, and I think people really need to understand this. And I think both doctors up there know this. The number, the age for when black people are supposedly supposed to go get checked is different. They don't make it. They don't say black men come in this age, white men come in this age. They say men come in at this age, but it's based on usually the white man's age. So they tell most black men, check your prostate at, get a colonoscopy at 50. That's the first thing. 50 is the age, but 50 shouldn't be the age for a colonoscopy, because our diets are much harder than the white people diet. So we should really start at 40. And even with the prostate,
family history, it's really important. Like a lot of people, like you adopted, so a lot of times we're in situations where we don't know, who biologically we have to look forward to down the road. And now the great thing about it, there's all kind of you can avail yourself to that'll tell you what to potentially look out for. It's one interesting age where now there are some things, like you mentioned, colon cancer is one of the rare cancers that they have a screening mechanism for, and it's pretty effective. Charred meats, fatty meats it's important that you get. Well, I've had like six colonoscopies, because every couple of years you get them. It's just as determined determined as we are to not let somebody disrespect us, for not to be punked, or just we're very reciprocally we protect. We have to protect our health just that same way. And on a great point for the screen.
I think.
Go ahead,
every
Jay.
norm is set.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jay.
I was thinking, like I said, what DL was saying, I think what would help us in terms of just black men, but black people, if we are introduced and kind of have a relationship with a doctor at an earlier age, and not so much as waiting till you get in your 40s and 50s and 60s, because like the young man with in Buffalo, New York, who had a heart attack, and this guy is an in shape athlete, 22 years old, and just a pounding of the chest, he ended up having a heart attack. So there are a lot of young men who are walking around today with heart trouble, with probably prostate trouble, with all types of problems that they don't go see the doctor until they get in their 50s and 60s, and the problem can be, unsolvable by that time. So I think what would help us is we just kind of build a relationship with doctors at a younger age, maybe 25, 30, something like that, and even younger.
Yeah, and if I can share, gentlemen, one of the when we do focus groups, we do surveys. Oftentimes, the number one request from Black men is, "Can I have access to a Black doctor?" And so, unfortunately, we know that in the Midwest, and particularly here in Wisconsin, and that's an issue. But one of the things, I had an opportunity to speak to the governor's listener session, Governor Tony Evers' listening session, and one of the things that I presented is that we did the research, and right now there's a very small percentage of Black men in medical school nationwide. So we already know that the request for Black men to see a Black physician, that is not going to be honored for at least 4 to 8 to possibly 12 years. And so I've requested for at least the state of Wisconsin to start investing a little more money in middle school, in high school, getting these kids, on that track so that when they decide to go to when they decide to go to college, maybe they will consider medical school. And so we have Dr. Eva Vivian here with us. And Dr. Vivian, you want to share a little bit about yourself? I think she is one of our top pharmacists, diabetes educators, and I'll let Dr. Vivian tell her story.
Well, thank you for allowing me to join this panel. This has been an incredible discussion. As Aaron indicated, I'm a professor at the University of Wisconsin School of Pharmacy, as well as a diabetes care and education specialist. And I've cared for people with diabetes and hypertension for over 25 years. And many of the comments that I've heard today are really on point. And incidentally, I'm a big fan, DL and J. Anthony. And
I thought you were going to say my name.
I love all you guys.
Why was I last? Why was I last? That's what I want to know.
I thought you would say my name first. That's the last. So
okay.
But I shared with my cousin. Oh my goodness, I'm on in this panel with celebrities. This is the first.
I mean, DL's the biggest star, but still, we still gonna go first.
Okay. Well, you have to correct me because I'm an academic healthcare professor.
No,
I don't know. I don't know any better. But DL made a strong comment when he said that it's important for us to be the steward of our health.
Yes.
That's really, really important. And J. Anthony indicated that we needed to see our doctors early. Now, over the years, I've had patients come to me and say, I don't like that particular doctor. And it is true that there is discrimination within the healthcare system. And I think that contributed to some of the vaccine hesitancy that we observed during COVID. But, you can fire your doctor and get another one.
Right.
So that's very important for our people to know that you can select a doctor that you feel understands your needs and that you feel comfortable communicating with. Another thing that was brought up, Dannon mentioned, when do we get checked? Those were some really important points. My mother developed breast cancer when she was in her 30s, and she died of colon rectal cancer. Now, my mother was an oncology nurse at the University of Illinois. And I recall I was in pharmacy school when she passed away. But when I was in her room during her final days, her surgeon came to the room and she told my sister and I to be sure to get a colonoscopy. And at that time, I was too young for a colonoscopy. They were recommending colonoscopies for people 50 years of age and older. And here was one of the top surgeons in the country telling a 30-year-old, get a colonoscopy. So when I requested a colonoscopy, and I had to tell my doctor, yes, I should get a colonoscopy because my mother died of colon rectal cancer. Sometimes you have to educate your doctor too, and let them know. I've never had a problem with getting annual mammograms, although at that time they recommended women 40 years of age and over receive them. But I've been receiving mammograms since I was 30 years of age. So in addition to having a relationship with the doctor, it's really important that you let your doctor know your family history. If you have a mother, grandmother, brother or sister that has diabetes, let the doctor know these things. That's very important because we are the stewards of our own health.
Yes, I wanted to say something, Aaron, real quick on that, because DL mentioned that with the about your doctors. My doctor, and I thank God for her, was a Black woman that discovered that I had prostate cancer. And I want to share the story with you because I didn't know, but I was a person that would go to the doctor. But what I did not know was she was keeping up on my numbers. So she said to me, which is crazy, before I got diagnosed, she said, hey, you know, your numbers are up. And I didn't know what she was talking about. And she said, well, I've been kind of keeping an eye on your PSA number. She said, I think you should see an oncologist. And if it wasn't for her, I know I wouldn't be here. She followed me as a Black woman. And I tell people this, you know, she saved my life. What I want to say to people out there, and it's very important what the doctor just said, is that you have to look at your what they call it, like your whatever, like your team. You know, when you have insurance, you have like I forgot the word, but you can look and see what doctors are in it. Right. So you can decide. And I think if you have a white doctor and you don't have it where you have any access to a Black doctor, then you have to, and I don't want to say the word demand because they're there to help, but I think you have to let them know, look.
The demand is exactly the right word. Demand is exactly
okay,
the right
well, you're right. Okay, thank you. Right, but you know, demand that, look, I need you to look at this, I need you to look at that. And DL said something that was real important, and I think people need to know this also, because I've done the same. Since I've been diagnosed with prostate cancer, I've already had five colonoscopies, because your prostate is the closest thing to your colon. This is what I was told. So if you get colon cancer, the first thing is going to affect is your prostate. But you have to, and even if you have to lie and tell them, I got a history of this in my family, they can't deny you. That I do know. That I've been informed of. So you have to, as a person out there, if you have insurance and they say you're not of age, you can demand it. You can demand like DL.
Even if you don't, here's the thing.
Right.
And one of the things,
right,
Doctor, that comes up constantly, and I know you guys run across this. The first thing you hear about Black men, when we always talk about the Tuskegee experiment, you know, and those are undeniable. Those there are historical biases and travesties that are taking place. And I remember doing the vaccine hesitancy and all that kind of stuff. What those doctors counted on was Black people's ignorance. Not that they were dumb people, but they counted on their ignorance. They counted on them not asking questions. They counted on them just taking what they were given. They counted on their ignorance, which killed them, which will obviously will kill us too, because it isn't a question of even the way you rephrase the question, you know, demand. it is almost a hesitancy. When we speak to people who are highly educated, there is a natural kind of inclination we have to draw back. There's a reason it's called practice, because nobody gets it right. We have the right to demand.
Right.
And you were talking about your numbers, black or white. You need a doctor who is sensitive to your needs and listens to you.
Right.
Because and that is more likely to happen with black people because we have a shared experience. But in the absence of that, because it just, my son-in-law is one of the only 5 black pediatricians in Atlanta. You would think they would have more. There's just not a lot of them. It is incumbent you, and throughout all of these conversations, the onus is on us to demand, to be consistent, and to make sure, like we said, we are responsible for how long or to what degree we have a quality of life. We are responsible for it. Only children and dogs have to be told what to do. I don't like broccoli. I don't like going to the dentist, but I know those things are connected. If you go to the dentist on a regular basis, you know that it can cut down the amount of plaque that gets into your heart. If you exercise, if you move around, like keeping your waist at a certain size, making sure you exercise, eating certain things, drinking a lot of water, getting a lot of sleep. Those are all things that we have control over, that can contribute to the kinds of life and the quality of life that we get to enjoy. It's no reason for us not to have the same. The difference between us and a lot of our counterparts is that they never feel bad demanding about the things that they need. They never feel bad.
About nothing. No,
they don't.
They don't feel bad. No, about anything.
So
well, I have a question for the pharmacists, just to kind of break the monotony of, seriousness. So it's not a serious question, but why are y'all so high up in the air, and what are y'all doing back there? That's what I was. I mean, if I go get a burger, I can see the guy make the burger. I can see that. But you guys, why can't we see? That's what I want to know.
Good question. I want to know too.
I'll be honest. While I'm a pharmacist by training, I have never worked in the community pharmacy. I was trained to be a clinical pharmacist and work in clinics and care for people with high blood pressure and diabetes. That's a good question, why they're so high up. I might mention that to the regional manager.
Don't mention that. That was dumb. That's a dumbass question. Don't mention that. They're laughing out of it.
Jay wants to see where his trust is coming from. Jay said, "I want to see my dope."
I want to
Well,
see
maybe
what
it's
I'm
a way
getting.
to prevent people from stealing the drugs. That might be.
And here's the other question: most of the drugs that we're getting, we can't pronounce any damn way. So it doesn't matter if you see it or not.
I love it.
I like to ask the doctor a question. I like to ask the doctor a question about diabetes, if I may. So, because I've cut down on my bread. I drink, but I like juices and things like that. But what are the signs? Because it seems, and I don't want to make a joke out of it, but it does seem like it just pops out of nowhere. Like one day you're good, next you get a checkup and like, well, you're diabetic, and you know what I mean. So what are some of the signs, and what are the things that we can do to prevent that, especially as we're older?
And Dr. Vivian, before you answer that, can we show a couple of the poll questions? Because I think one of the questions is specifically what Dannon is talking about. So can we poll the audience real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. We got our dynamic group here. How is diabetes related to high blood pressure? And if you want to throw the other question out there, and Dr. Vivian will take those. And what are some of the risk factors? We touched on that. So Dr. Vivian, you want to answer Dannon's questions and the poll questions?
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to indicate that in general, there's 2 types of diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is the diabetes that often occurs when someone's young, and that means that the pancreas can't make insulin at all. So they require insulin at the onset because their body can't make insulin. But 90 to 95% of people who have diabetes in our country have type 2 diabetes. And type 2 diabetes actually doesn't happen overnight. There's a progression. What happens is over time, your body becomes, the muscles and cells in your body become resistant to the action of insulin. Now, insulin's responsibility is to move the glucose or sugar that you get from your food into the muscles and tissues of your body that need it for energy. And ideally, your body keeps everything in balance. Now, over time, your body may become resistant to insulin, meaning that insulin is still circulating, trying to do its job, but the muscles won't respond and let the glucose into the cells to use it for energy. And as a result, that sugar and glucose stays in your bloodstream and it begins to rise. So initially what happens is that you generally have pre-diabetes for a while before you go on to develop diabetes. Now, I'm wondering if they could actually display the pre-diabetes risk test that I provided before the session began.
Yes,
There's a survey that you could actually take. You could just Google pre-diabetes risk test, and I'm hoping that they put it on the screen now. Here it is. This is a great risk test, and the American Diabetes Association and the Center of Disease Control released this. One of the risks is how old we are. As we age, we're at higher risk for diabetes. So you get more points the older you are. Unfortunately, men have a slightly higher risk than women. So you get a point if you're a man. If you're a woman that has been diagnosed with gestational diabetes, you're at higher risk. If you have a family member, a mother, father, brother, or sister with diabetes, that places you at higher risk. Now, if you've been diagnosed with high blood pressure, you're also at risk. There was a question about high blood pressure. High blood pressure and diabetes are first cousins, and 50% or more of individuals that have high blood pressure often have diabetes. Being physically inactive will increase your risk of developing diabetes. There was a study that was conducted about 20 years ago, and they found that even if you don't lose weight, if you remain physically active, you can decrease your risk of developing diabetes. So those are some of the risk factors. There's a genetic component, but being physically inactive, being overweight, and are really things that can increase your risk for diabetes. And some of the ways you address not developing diabetes will also help your high blood pressure.
You know, it's funny, Doc. I remember when I went to go to the doctor, my A1C level was 6.2, 6.4.
Okay.
And, you know, and I was pre-diabetic. So I ended up losing 20 pounds. And then I went to 5. The amazing thing was people think that it's the sugar, fat, eating a high fat diet. It can't, well, he was explaining to me that a fat diet makes it harder for your body. Some people think it's the bread and the starch, which is, you know, minimal, but it's as much absorbing foods that are high in fat with a little nutritional value help control. One of the things that happen for us, particularly as comedians, is like Dannon saying, when you get off the plane, you get off that and not move. You like that. Like I read a study and they talked about how being sedentary is the new smoking. It has as many bad effects as just having a sedentary lifestyle. It is as bad for us as some other unhealthy habits. So you hit it right on the head when you talked about it. Is we have to, a lot of that stuff can be offset or even staved off by just developing a regular.
That's a good point. You know,
I cannot. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Wait, Jay.
Hey, I have a nephew of mine who's a physical therapist, and he constantly talks about, you know, Black people and just people in general. And he said one of the things that's taken food, not so much as drugs and alcohol, is our eating habits that we definitely do not drink enough water. Since I had COVID and I lost some, that my blood pressure level went down from the weight that I lost, and to start exercising, like, there's a lot. We just sit around a lot and don't do anything. We don't walk.
Jay,
we just don't.
Yeah, Jay, how much weight did you lose when you were sick? If you don't mind me asking, let the audience know.
I lost I was down to worried weight, which, about 50 pounds probably. Yeah.
God damn.
What
did you were lowercase J, Anthony Brown.
I know, hey, DL, you in line. Jay used to have a little weight. I'm like, damn, Jay, 50 pounds.
But it definitely made a difference from when I would go, because I could tell. I would go on stage, and I was one of those, what you call, DL and call them towel comedians. They need
you sweat.
They towel all the time.
What's really interesting is that 80 or 90 years ago, diabetes was almost unheard of in the Black community.
Wow.
If you ran into a Black person with diabetes, more than likely they had type 1 diabetes. And my father and his siblings used to share this with me when they were alive. And I thought about it. I said, well, they grew up poor and they ate neck bones and other things. And I was wondering, well, why is it that they didn't develop diabetes? You didn't have all the fast food out here, and they were very physically active. They walked a lot. This was part of their life. And I even think about when I was a kid, we used to jump rope. I actually last summer taught a group of 12-year-olds how to jump rope. And I couldn't believe that these girls did not know how to jump rope. That was something we did all the time.
Wow.
Well, I mean,
DL, real quick, hold up, Jay. DL, real quick, was you drinking water to prove a point right there? I noticed you held the bottle up a little bit long.
To dovetail, our parents had more stressors than we do too, like real finite stressors, and to really help them. Like that. Remember, I used to say, after we talk about health, it isn't just which are a lot of the things that we do, like the depression can lead to you staying home and being sedentary. So it's things are in concert. They work together, and physical activity.
Well, you're right. Well, I mean, it's like the pharmacist was back in the day, and I'm older than he. We played. We actually, there was physical play. It was like go outside and play. You go out. You don't see anybody outside physically playing. Problem is, we have accepted people to be overweight, and like I said, I'm older. When I was going to school, you maybe saw one obese kids, maybe one or two, three at the most. But now, and be overweight is a badge of honor, and it's a fun of it because you're hurting their feelings, and it encourages other people to be overweight.
I think real quick, what you added to what Jay said, I think that's a very important point, and not to get off what we're talking about, but I think because of how, when we all grew up, we all played, and if there was someone, if we did have someone that was overweight, we joked on him. He still was our friend, but we talked about it. But at least he got out there and played with us. He didn't feel like he didn't go home and say, you know what I mean? He still played, And I think so. I think what's happening now is because we've allowed our society to say, well, if you say something about someone's weight, you're fat shaming them. Then it's almost like, I would tell you to work out, but you're gonna feel ashamed if I do. So now it's rolling over to where kids are more inclined to just be home on video games, and no one says anything about working out. So I think that's a great point, Jay, that about, you know, cause we did play, you know what I mean? And you know, even
now,
if we were overweight,
even now we could play like how I never even understood how valuable the sun is and how important people now are vitamin D deficient, which makes us susceptible to more of these things. The best way vitamin D is through your eyes outside. Now, if you're older and you can't play basketball, you go outside. There is, you know, and even if you can't even rep the potency of vitamin C by taking supplements, it's best absorbed. They did this thing. Golfers who are out in the sun live longer than almost any other sport.
I'm gonna live long. I'm gonna live
because they're active
amazing.
And they're outside.
Amazing.
And that
I did not know that.
Always fun. Yeah, golfers live the long.
Yeah, Jay. When you was talking about me on stage, Jay, you should have been golfing. Now you're gonna pay.
Well, let me tell you. Can I tell you real quick why I don't you real quick. Really,
go ahead.
Really quick. When I was in high school, I caddied.
Oh.
It left such a bad taste in my mouth from carrying for $8 per bag to do 18 holes where they have alcohol and sandwiches and coats and shoes. And so I just have a bad taste. I know the game, but I will not play it. I'm not going.
And let me tell you about DL does love golf. I mean, what he's saying about the vitamin D in your body and stuff, he loves golf. And I want to share something with you. We had a span this past summer where each day it might have been about 115 degrees. And so DL calls me up and he goes, "Hey, can you come out? Can you make it out today?" So I looked outside. I said, "DL, you know it's like 100 something outside." And he said, so he had an attitude like, "So you ain't playing?" So I'm like, "Okay." So then I guess he went outside or opened the door, and then he hits me back and goes, "Yeah, Q, yeah, we ain't gonna be playing today." So yeah.
Yeah, and I think Dr. Thomas wanted to get something in. Go ahead, Dr.
I'm sorry, Doc. I'm sorry.
It is impossible to get in between these two. It's like trying to play double dutch and trying to figure out when to jump in. So hopefully I jumped in at the correct time. I really appreciate what you shared, Mr. Hughley, about the connection between mental health and physical health. And I want to point out that we've spent a lot of our time today talking about that only one side of the coin with regard to our health, our physical health. And that's because it is easy. It's the quote unquote, the easier part to deal with. It's the more acceptable part to deal with. And so going to a doctor and taking care of things that we can see, symptoms that we can see, is a little bit more normal. And I think these conversations force us to start thinking about and to start normalizing conversations around those elements of our health that are not normal to discuss or not comfortable or fashionable. The mental health, what's going on in here. We don't want people up here. We don't want people to know what our next move is. Because if they know what our next move is, they can predict who we are and predict where we're going and potentially destroy us. Our responsibility is to also understand that this health thing is a two-sided coin.
Yes.
We have all of these physical elements, but there's some psychological, some emotional health elements that are impacting the physical health. And I think Mr. Hughley did an excellent job at pointing out one of the areas that if you're depressed, if you have issues with anxiety, if you have difficulties with emotions, if you have difficulties with social connection, difficulties with relationships, then you are less likely to go outside and be physically active. And if you're less likely to be physically active, you're more likely to develop diabetes and cancer and a lot of other issues. So how do we get to a point where we start to normalize the conversation around what's going on up here for us as boys, as girls, as men, as women? How do we start talking about, hey man, I am just not feeling well. No, physically I'm well, but something is just going. Something is not right for me. I'm feeling. I haven't been able to sleep well. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling suicidal.
Right.
Even being able to say that word is difficult.
Go ahead, Jay.
I think that helps in terms of all three of us, Dannon and D.L. and myself being comedians, in terms of our stand-up and performance. And when we feel free of what we're going through, it kind of makes people go, you know what, maybe I need to go check. Not to mention when D.L. had his series at the comedy club, people saw that and said, you know what, I need to go get checked out myself. When I talked about my cancer, a lot of people went and got checked out themselves. So us speaking about it, we can possibly and encourage people to go to the doctor, drink water, exercise, and I have that problem myself in terms of I don't get enough sleep. And when you talk about it, it will make people look at themselves. Right.
Hey, Aaron, can I ask you a question, Aaron?
Yes,
in
sir.
With your clinics that you have, and Dr. Thomas, because you're there too, so I'd like to know when you guys are going into the clinics that Aaron, the barbershops that Aaron has the clinics in, do you guys talk to the barbers about talking to their clients about what's going on within the community and the barbershop?
Yeah, actually, that's actually what makes this model works, because the clients trust their barbers. And so what we did is we had our Edgewood College, we had the nursing students come in, and they trained the barbers on how to do blood pressure screenings. And actually talk to them about things that they can look for, like, lines on the back of the neck. And I think Dr. Vivian can talk to that, about how that could be a sign of diabetes. If you want to take that, Dr. Vivian.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that the barbershops as well as the hair salons are a great place to provide education. I have a colleague in Washington, D.C. that conducted a study where she trained barbers and hairstylists to look at the back of the neck for skin darkening, and that's called acanthosis nigricans. That's just a formal scientific term. But what was very interesting is if the barber or hairstylist saw that darkening, and it's not just behind the neck, it could be under the elbows or the knees, they would have someone come in and actually do a finger stick right then while the person was still in the barbershop. And what they found, that was 83% of the people that they checked actually had diabetes and was unaware of it. And that's what's really, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jay.
What I wanted to say about barbershops, which a lot of people don't know, just a little known history, were normally places where people, they took their bullet wounds and stuff like to do with the pole being red and blue and white, because you not only went to the barber, went to a barber for if you cut your finger, if you so that's that up these clinics because of how comfortable we are in terms of talking, tell our barbers stuff we won't tell our mates, and that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and Dannon, if I can interrupt. So one of the things I wanted to make sure I touch base with you, one of our sponsors is Vital Strategies. So we don't know what the opioid epidemic is like in your area. Can you guys show that poll question? We want to make sure that we get that out there. And if you guys could speak to that a little bit, that would be great. The overdose death rates increased 44% for Black people between 2019-2020, more than any other group. And I think you had a slide that you were going to show, Dalian. We can put that up. There we go. Yeah, so if you guys can look at this, I don't know if you have any questions that you can share, but we are now a harm reduction site. So we have that set up in all of our barbershop health centers where men can come in and get information. They can get, if need be, they can get Narcan. And so we have all of that set up in our barbershops. But Vital Strategies, I want to make sure that I highlight them as a significant sponsor for what we're doing. So any questions you guys have about that?
So not a question.
Go ahead, Dr. Thomas. Go ahead.
In 2019, I was at an opioid response meeting in Washington, D.C. And the conversation about the opioid crisis had only just started as far as what its effects on the Black community. That conversation was only just starting, and the measurement was only just starting among the Black community. We knew it was happening already, but we weren't quite sure of the scope of it. And I think seeing the current CDC numbers suggest that not only do we see an increase, but the increase was exponential, significantly high increase in a very short period of time. And so when we talk about, Dr. Vivian was talking about being having the clinics, and not the clinics, sorry, the barbershops and the hairdressing salons, being able to be almost like first responders, and kind of attaching to what D.L Hughley talked about as well, about the mistrust, the medical mistrust, rightfully so, that exists within our communities. And pivoting to barbershops, pivoting to these spaces that Black people congregate and feel safe in as the first responders. And I think, Aaron Perry, you're already doing this in the barbershop. How can we also pivot so that our barbers, that our hairdressers can themselves become first responders on mental health? So you know what signs to look for substance abuse. You know what signs to look for depression, for anxiety, for trauma in a child, in a man. And you can say, I see this. This is only I see 3 signs in you. And I want to recommend that you see this person before these signs become overwhelming symptoms and you develop a full-blown psychological disorder. But at this point, we don't have that happening yet. And I think that's our next step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, excellent. Yes, sir.
I don't know if it's the same. I know it's different, but we're talking about, I guess we are talking about overdosing and mental health. It seems, I know that, because you mentioned to us about what have we experienced anything like it. You know, I've known a few comedians that have OD'd over the fentanyl. And so I know that's a real, I don't know how that is related to the opiate situation, but I'm really surprised. I am very surprised how many African Americans over the last number of years have overdosed and are overdosing off of drugs. So, Dr. Thomas, I would ask you, or the other doctors, what do you think? What's the play? Is that more mental? You know, what is that? Is it health, mental? What is causing that more for us in our community?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jay.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Well, the doctor, I mean, I think DL was talking about this earlier. It has to do with the condition of life that Black men have makes you look for an escape better or to have a high so that you're not physically or mentally dealing with it. And drugs is easy to get as opposed to upon you if you take drugs, but they're going to label you if you say, well, we're going to take the easy way out. And that's just what we do, you know?
Yeah, and I think we have a resource that we can post up. DeLeon, if you can post that resource that we have. Yeah, so if you guys, not that one, but he'll get to it. So we are, the time right now is 2:09. Oh, there we go. So this is a nice resource if people can go to learn more about the opioid crisis and what they can actually do in their community. And again, this is one of our big sponsors, Vital Strategies. We just enjoy that the fact that they trusted in us to invest in us to get this message out. And so we're going to pivot a little bit. I know that DL and J. Anthony, if you guys have to jump off, we respect that. We appreciate you guys joining us. Oh, go ahead.
I got what to expect when I got on this thing.
Oh, we lost him.
Yeah,
just in terms
we
of
lost him.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah,
no,
go
we
ahead.
had lost him. Yeah,
we got you.
Hello.
You're good, DL.
Out again.
Okay. Yeah, this technology. Yeah, we got you.
You're good.
Go ahead, DL.
Does he have an Android? Is that the situation? He has an Android over here?
You on a flip?
Got the
guys are brutal.
You on a flip?
He's on a flip
I'm sorry. Every time they show a graphic, my phone drops. But in terms of the opiate crisis,
Oh, okay.
you can tell that it started. We're fortunate that it in at the tail end of it, because it would have been criminal and not a crisis, were impacting us most in the beginning. Initially, the drug was black people. A lot of doctors felt like black people weren't really experiencing pain, so they were to prescribe them. And now all of a sudden, you'll see people selling prescriptions, being overprescribed. So even our addiction, like now you can't even go and serve. Harder to get codeine than it is to get guns. But it is. This is the mental health component. It is our inability. America is the most pornography. All of these things we do to kind of deal with things. Be more productive of us to find out. Like, I know why I drink, and I know why I do. So it would be more productive to find out what is it that makes us feel like we want to unnecessary things, rather than dealing with them and having a way to cope that doesn't come or a smoke or a drink or something like that.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment though about the opioid issue, and one of the concerns I have, for example, 10 years ago, we were taught, we were underprescribing opioids for pain. And then more recently, we were overprescribing them. About 4 years ago, a woman came to my clinic for diabetes self-care management. And when she walked in, she could barely stand up. So of course, I can't start talking to her about her insulin therapy. I inquired about her pain, and I asked her why wasn't she taking her pain medication, and she said she ran out and her doctor would not give her a new prescription. And I responded, I said, well, your doctor's right here in clinic. I'll go speak to your doctor. When I went to the doctor informed me that the patient had visited her the previous week and had a urine test, and that test came back negative. So she felt that the patient was selling her medication. So there's a lot of unconscious bias and beliefs that don't apply for everyone. I returned to my office and I just asked the patient, about her visit last week. And I said, are you aware that your urine test came back negative? Can you tell me why? And she said, sure. She was taking care of her grandchildren. And she said that the medication made her drowsy, so she doesn't take it when she's taking care of her grandkids. And it just so happened that it was the day that she had to visit the doctor. And when I went back and informed the doctor, that patient got that prescription right then. So I agree that there are some issues, but there are also instances where we have legitimate pain and we should be treated. And there's a lot of information that shows that Black people tend not to get the appropriate dose for their pain.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Dan, and I just wanted to make sure. So one of the things we always finish, we're off to a good start with, is Dannon doing his comedy skit. We ain't gonna rob you from that. We want you to still do that.
Please don't make me sit through that.
Hey, well, look, I may be performing with DL tonight, so I got to make sure I do something.
All right, yeah. So everyone,
watch this twice.
So I know Jay and Jay Anthony Brown and D.L Hughley. I know you guys got shows coming up tonight. We just so appreciate you guys being on. If you want to stick around for Dannon's comedy show, you can. I'm sure you see it all the time.
We don't.
All the time. I do want to say this. I wanted to thank, honestly, both doctors, especially Dr. Thomas, because we worked before on this. But Doctor, thank you for being here with the diabetes information. But I really wanted to thank DL and Jay because trust me, they have the very busy schedules and it's hard to get them. But DL really has been really kind enough to be involved in it, and to bring Jay in this year was really good. I just did a podcast with Jay, so we just had some fun, and so he was the first person I thought about, Aaron. And even though I know half of America really probably doesn't know who Jay is, that should I think that I wanted to make sure that
let me say something before I leave. Earlier, Dannon was talking about our first encounter when he came to the comedy club, and he had Doc, you're not a comedian. The people on the top, you're not comedian. But had you guys seen this leopard 2-piece set with matching hat and sandals? Trust me, not just one leopard. It was a multitude of leopards on the silk short set that and let me just say that night he did not have the greatest set of, so with the suit and the set, I just took upon myself to bring the crowd back with
I appreciate it, Jay. You should just be happy that I decided not to cut your tires and everything else. I thought about it.
You probably would have whooped my ass. Okay, I got that. But no, let me finish. It would have taken away from that short set because that would have been in the story. Did you see a guy in a short set beat the dog mess out of Jay? So it would have still been there. It would have
went viral today.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah, well, gentlemen, I do appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.
Being on. I think DL DL, thank you so much. I know that you've taken time out a few years now to join us. This is something that what we do know that talking about Black men's health, we have to keep having these discussions. We wanted it to be a serious discussion, but we also wanted to have a little fun with it. And that's what I believe we delivered today. So Jay Anthony Brown, D.L Hughley, thank you guys for joining us. I think the other guys are going to stay on. All right. All right.
Yeah, I'll hit you up.
And so, Dannon, the stage is yours now, my brother.
Well, see, that's a lot of pressure right now. I mean, who can follow one of the kings of comedy and who can follow J. Anthony Brown? But I can do that, ladies and gentlemen, because I have that type of skills. And first of all, to Dr. Vivian, it's Vivian, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you for your comments about when you go to the barber shop and if your neck is dirty, that it doesn't mean it's dirt, that you may have a diabetes, because sometimes I don't take a shower before I go get a barber shop and they kind of see the dirt on my neck. So, hey, now I can lie and say, look, I got diabetes for the day. You know what I'm saying? and ladies and gentlemen, so I know we don't have a lot of time, but I want to share some lightness to our day. If some of you guys don't know, I just got back from Japan and Korea, and I must say that it was an excellent trip. I'm not a big flyer. I hate to fly. I've always hated to fly, especially since 9/11. And I used to tell people, and I do, I don't like flying so much that now I'm at the security gate and I'm actually trying to help them. I'm like, you might want to check his bag too. You know what I mean? And they'll always say, and they're like, well, what's wrong? I don't know, but he's on my plane, But I want to say this about Black people when we fly. That's why when I fly, Aaron, and to everyone else that is watching, I drink. I'm drunk when I fly. And I know it's not, but I'm going to tell you why I drink. Because you know what they say about a car accident. most of the time the drunk lives. You know what I mean? So if the plane crashed, I'll be able to pop out, hey, what happened? You know what I mean? Well, sir, everybody seemed to die but you. Well, they should have been drinking. There's my luggage. I'm off. But you know, I was wondering too, in the history of flying, do you ever notice in the history of flying that they hardly ever hijack planes with black people? I don't know if you noticed that. If you look at the history, the only time in the history of America that they hijacked planes outside of 9/11 for black people was 1980 when we boycotted the Olympics. And if you remember, it was because the Iranians had hijacked an American plane. You remember that? With 220 Americans. And if you look at the history of it, there were actually 8 African Americans on the plane. And the Iranians told the black people to get off because they was like, y'all get off because we know y'all not going to be putting up with this. So y'all get your bags and get whatever you're going to have to do. And one brother left his bag and knocked back on the door. Left my bag. Good luck, white folks. And I'm gone. So that's why I don't like to fly. But right now, with everything going on with the flying, most of the time they don't want to take us because we want to go. You know, you can see hijackers to now in today's time saying, look, this plane ain't going to New York. This plane is going to the Bahamas. And one brother would stand up and say, now that's what I'm talking about. Free vacation. So, hey, that's one reason why I hate to fly. But I had a great time. I had a very good time in Korea, and I want to share a little bit of what happened. So, obviously, when I think the stereotypes that we get in the world, ladies and gentlemen, is when you're around a particular race, you start acting and talking like them. It's not even being racist enough. It's just that it happens. If you go to Mexico and you hang around enough Spanish people, you start talking like them. Well, my problem was when I went to Korea, I started walking like the Asian people with very short steps, and they were like, "What's wrong with him?" I'm like, "I don't know what's wrong with my legs. I can't move them." But hey, that was the situation over there. But they're hustlers. They're hustlers. The Korean people of what was that? We're off to a great start. Everybody that's watching this, I want you to know, the Korean people, there are hustlers. They talk faster than black people when it comes to selling stuff. Let me tell you what happened to me. I went into a store in Osan. It's a clothing store, Aaron. I went in there with my buddy. Now, everybody knows you can buy clothes cheap over, get custom-made suits made. But I didn't have a lot of money. So I didn't really want to buy anything. And I was in there with my buddy. And the Korean guy said, "Oh, you want a suit?" I said, "Look, sir, no disrespect, but I'm just here with my buddy. He's here to get some clothes." He said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah." So while he was helping my friend, I noticed he always kept one eye on me. And I happened to just touch some fabric by accident. And he goes, "You need that suit. That suit will make you look good." And I said, "Look, man, I don't need no suit." And they know what to say, Aaron. He said, "But that suit make you look like a black James Bond." I said, "Make 2 of them for me, sir. I'll have that. I'll take 2 of those suits right there." So they know how to hustle, man. You know, the weather. I told you the weather was bad in northern Japan, lower Japan had snow, but the weather has a very, very strange way of controlling life. For instance, in the East Coast, when it gets cold, the weather can control how you want to work. You could get up in the morning, that weather, you put your foot down on that floor and it's 2 or 3, 4, 5 below the zero, and you touch that cold floor and you put your foot down, and what do you say? You going to work today? Oh, hell no. Why? It's too cold to go to work. If you live down south, down in New Orleans, Louisiana, Alabama, it gets so humid you can barely breathe. You walk outside, the humidity hits you, woo! You going to work today? Oh, hell no. It's too hot to go to work. But in LA, we're spoiled. Weather's nice all the time. I went out the side the other day, looked around. I said, whoa, this weather's terrible. Nice. He said, "You going to work today?" I said, "Nope. It's too nice to go to work. I think I'm going to go down to the beach. I think I'm good." But the weather also has a way to control crime. And that's why we need cold weather. For instance, in Chicago, summertime, DC, major cities, unfortunately, crime is terrible. But in the wintertime, the crime is down. You could be out there getting ready to rob a guy. He's like, "Ooh, give me your money." And then if you start feeling that cold, you go, "Ooh, if it wasn't so cold, I would rob you right now, but I can't. I'll see you in April." You know what I mean? So we have a lot of different ways of controlling and in our environments and dealing with people. And lastly, but not, I want to end my comedy on this part right here. I want to tell you, this is one reason that as some of you may not know, I'm single and I'm thinking about buying a pet. Now, does anyone own a pet here? Aaron, do you own a pet, Aaron? Doctor, what do you have, Doc?
A German Shepherd.
So you have a dog. But see, I'm a little different. I want to get a dog, but I like cats. And a lot of people don't like cats. But I say cats are cool because you can have a cat for a whole month and not even know you got a cat. Until it's time to change the litter box, he's just going to pop out, hey, my man, you going to change that? Oh, my fault, I didn't know you were still here. And then you change the box, you don't see the cat for another month. But a dog, you see him every day.
Yeah.
But dogs aren't like they used to be. They used to be. Remember, now, Doctor, I don't know how old you are. You might be around our age. You look very beautiful, very young. I know Aaron's in his 50s. Dr. Thomas, not sure. But remember when a dog used to be a dog? When all you had to do was give a dog a biscuit, ask him what happened. He would even tell you, yo, a couple people came by the house. I barked, they rolled, we good. You know what I mean? Give the dog a biscuit. Wouldn't see him no more that night. White folks. White people mess the game up when it comes to dogs. See, there it is right there. See? Now, white people start giving dogs hats, coats, and sandals. You know what I mean? Now, when you come home and talk to your dog, he don't even want to talk to you. Your dog, doctor, is going to soon not want to talk to you because your dog is going to say, hey, I've been hanging down the street with this white dog. He got a lot of toys. Now, unless I start getting what he's getting, you're going to be missing some stuff tomorrow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end it on that. And I just want to say that it is a pleasure to just share a little bit of comedy, share it with some laughter. We need that. It's also laughter is good for the heart. And I want to thank my man Aaron Perry for having me, and both doctors for enjoying the show, and anybody that might have listened. Thank you so much.
Dannon Green, thank you so much. This is what I had to deal with when I went to college.
Yeah,
it was every day, you know. Yeah. So Dannon, thank you so much for joining, man, and we'll definitely be in touch with you. All right.
Yeah, and Aaron, I want to give you kudos, Aaron. I known you for the years that I've known you, and Doc. Aaron played college basketball. Both doctors, Dr. Thomas, you know that. I'm showing off my little. I still got my my little warm up jersey, AP for Merry Christmas, and my name. So that because people didn't know that I played college ball because everybody knows me as a boxer. And what people don't know is Aaron. I think you came to at least one or two of my fights when I was in Davenport. Wow. So I was I was a very good fighter. But I really want to thank Aaron because we did do a lot of activities we all did when we were younger. We tried to stay healthy. Things happen along the way. We know we're going to get older. We're going to get some type of sickness off and on, hopefully not. But what you're doing, Aaron, I just wanted to tell you, man, I appreciate what you're doing up there, trying to spread awareness around the country. And this is why not only you being my friend, but this is why when you come to me and say, Danny, can you get someone? I try to go get some of the biggest names that I possibly can for you to let people know that, one, people are concerned about their health, you know what I'm saying? And that they really want to support. But mostly, really, Aaron, I bring the names so that I'm making it out here. I have a lot of important friends, Aaron, and I just think it's important that I know stuff. Okay? You may know doctors. You may know doctors, but I know stars, okay?
I ain't mad at you, my brother.
No, I'm just kidding, man. I love you, man. I love you guys. Thank you, Doc. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care, Dannon. And ladies and gentlemen, that is actually going to conclude another We're Off to a Good Start. I did say that we wanted to have a fun discussion, but a serious discussion. And I think we achieved that. I also want to apologize. I know we had a little microphone, some concerns. We'll get that straightened out for 2024. Dannon, you're going to be back with us on 2024 next year.
If God says the same, I'm going to be right here with y'all.
Sounds good. Yeah. And so, but I also want to thank Dr. Vivian,
yes,
Eva Vivian for being with us. Thank you so much. Dr. Alvin Thomas. Thank you.
Aaron, can I share my social media? May I share my social media? And also, I would like to get the doctors on social media because I would like to be a follow. But my social media, my Instagram, for anyone that's out there, is Dannon Green, DANNON Green, GREEN 66. That's Dannon Green 66. I'm actually, you'll see a picture of me sitting on a stairwell with a suit on. That's my, because I have more than one Instagram, but that's the one that I follow the most. And then my Facebook is Dannon Green. So yes, so I truly appreciate you. And Dr. Thomas, it's always good to see you again, brother. And I like the braids, bro. You know, either the kids moved out the house or you hanging around some young folks now, man, because I don't, you know, they look good.
Yeah, Dannon, take care, my brother, because we got to close this show. So I want to make sure that I know DeLiano with Omniverse media company. Yeah. This young man is dynamic. DeLiano, if you can put your information out there, America needs to know about this young man's company. You do a phenomenal job presenting us, bringing us live. We had a little bit of technical issues, but that was not on your end. That was on the guest end. So, but let's go ahead and close the show out. But again, I want to make sure we highlight our sponsors. But again, we were just so appreciative right here. Walgreens, SSM Health, Dean Health Plan, Wisconsin Partnership Program, Vital Strategies, and our very newest friend that came on board, Medica Foundation. Thank you guys so much for helping us make this a reality. And DeLiano, I'll let you close the show out.